You always do this!
Oh, that's so intense.
Hey, and welcome to our little marriage podcast that we're doing. And I hope we can say something beneficial to help you in your marriage today. So we want to talk about how do you handle conflict.
Yeah,
Mary and I never get in conflict. We have the perfect marriage.
No, I didn't say let's not do this podcast today because we had a conflict this week. Of course not. Not me.
She did. She changed her mind though. We're going to try our best to help you because we are perfect at handling conflict. No, but I actually think we do pretty good. A lot of times, every marriage I think gets into some conflicts, and if you never get into conflict, I think
there might be some buried.
Yeah, there might be some bigger issues,
some buried conflict.
You're just burying everything, never bringing anything up, and that's gonna implode or explode one day, I would think. So to have a great marriage, you need to have trust between each other, and you need to be able to share. And as Dr. David Clark would say, and Honey, we need to talk is a resource we're using for this kind of discussion, is if you want to have emotional intimacy, which is key for having a healthy marriage, you need to be able to talk about everything and be able to not have any secrets between each other. But not having any secrets and being able to talk about everything, there's going to be some conflict because we're both fallen human beings that got issues and got junk and see things differently, and we have different personalities. And you're a guy. I mean, not you're a guy. I'm a guy and you're a girl. And so all that there's a rub for sure. And so how do we handle conflict, honey?
So I think my negative conflict style is I tend to be more of a passive aggressive conflict engager, where I kind of am just like, I'm fine, but then I will like make a comment to show you that I'm not doing great, and it'll be like a
little jab in there.
Yeah, just like a small one. I don't feel like I like go for the jugular or something. It's not like a crazy one, but it's just this little like, I'm here, but I'm not happy. I'm a martyr right now in this conflict. You're like, so that's honestly, that is something we've really had to deal with. And he talks about different conflict styles in the book of like being more aggressive, being passive aggressive, and the
being
different styles. Right.
If you're both yelling is one. If one's a yell, the other one's just like the barrier. You can just kind of be passive about it and never bring anything up ever. Just doormat type of personality.
But just what's interesting is I feel like the passive aggressive comments have declined the longer we've been married. And I think a key thing for me, if that is something you struggle with, is Tanner no longer just lets them lie. Occasionally you will, if it's, if everything has come together. But I feel like more often you will address it and you will say, you made that comment because you might not say it right there in that moment. It might just be a different moment that you talk to me about it. But I think I make less of those comments because you're helping me realize, hey, instead of being a martyr, just tell me that you're upset and be honest about it. I mean, and part of me even making those comments is me feeling like I didn't actually share what was really bothering me with you. Instead, I'm going to not share it, but then I'm going to be upset about it for a while.
So the big thing here is first you have to have a conversation about your fights and how do we fight? Identify, what type of fights do you usually have? What is the usual rhythm? Who's more the yeller? Who buries? Who's passive aggressive? Who's aggressive? Who's passive? All that, and just identify what's going on and what's the normal habits of your marriage. And then a question that kind of comes up there is, when do you bring something up? When is something worthy to make an issue about? Because fights are not fun, and everyone, rather just not fight would be nice. But eventually, if something is bothering you and you don't bring it up, it's going to be a bigger issue later. And so for me, I don't know, my process is, first my tendency is just not to say anything. I'd rather just have peace. And that was actually something this book really helped, because I was the clam really a lot, and things were bothering me, and I wasn't sharing with you. And so this book helped me realize that, and helped me realize that sharing is important, and I got to share when you upset me, because I have a pleasing type of personality, and I just want to make you happy and not make issues. And so what for me is basically, if something is a repeated bother, or if it was a very big bother, like I'm really upset, I'm about to cry about this, like I need to tell you, or if it's just a repeated thing, like this keeps bothering me, eventually you have to work up the courage and be like, honey, like I got to tell you something's been bothering me. And she gets upset about that because you're like, this has been bothering you for how long, and you haven't
like,
told me.
why didn't you just say it initially?
But I think part of that's, wise of, you don't want to just complain about every little thing, because sometimes something just happens once and then it never happens again, and you made an issue out of something that was a one-time small thing that you didn't have to make an issue out of. So.
Yeah, I think a big thing is just what you said. Exactly. Look at, is this something that keeps coming up? And then is it just a really big problem in that moment that it's like, I'm going to be upset for a long time about this one thing? And then I think as far as when do you talk about it, if you have children, you want to be really wise about that. Thinking through, it's not that your kids can never see you engage in conflict, but you and I, we actually have if we feel like we're getting upset and our kids are present, we kind of have like a line that we'll say, where we kind of do like a white flag, is something we kind of go like that. We just do some different cues for us that are able to say, hey, let's calm down here. And we've never been yelling at each other. It's more of so you're not at that point. It's long before you get to yelling. It is hey, like, we're upset and I can feel in myself that I'm
say things I don't mean here.
Yes. And so it's either one of us, we agree that we will respect the other saying, hey, I need to talk about this later. Or the other one might sense that, like, if you sense that in me, you might say, hey, or if I sense that in you, maybe just, hey, we just need to talk about this later. And then fight as friends. You're not each other's enemy. We love each other so much, and you love your spouse so much. You don't want to approach them as your enemy. And so sometimes I can be kind of intense in my facial expressions, and Tanner will say that. And he doesn't say it in an angry, yelling at me way at all. It is completely hey, you're making me feel like the enemy right now. And so we really do try to work hard at that we fight as friends. We don't try to make fun of each other in arguments. We really try to focus on the argument and the disagreement, and try to find a medium together that we agree with. But I just think you brought up several big things of recognize that. And we didn't really talk about when is a good time to talk about it, but just, is there necessarily like, this is an ideal time or not? Always.
They're super stressed and have a bunch going on right that moment. It's probably not the time to throw out another thing. It just depends. But like, so how do you fight? Sometimes I think like, is this something we need to work through or whatever? I think, I don't know if I ever told you this. I would think like, man, like, we need to go to marriage counseling about this. It's like what I think in my head. I think, yeah, in marriage counseling, I would say this. I'm like, well, why don't I just like have a conversation about that now, and just talk honestly about something, but not in a, like you said,
like I've been building up my case against you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And like a tip we were given is to pass the salt.
Yeah.
And here's the coffee cup as an illustration, but like, a lot of times you just run over each other and there's not really listening when you're having a discussion, but to really make sure only one person is talking at a time. And so like, it's my turn to talk and I have the cup. And so only the person who has the cup needs to talk. And you might actually need to have an object if this is really a problem in your relationship where you talk over each other and you don't really understand. And so really letting one person share everything they want to about the topic. And then once you're done, then you pass and the other person gets to share. And a big part of that too is the person that gets it should reflect back first until like, okay, what I heard you say was this. Is that what you meant? Is that a good, accurate summary of what you just shared?
And then give them a chance.
And then, okay, now I've shared and I hear you understand. Now your turn. Well, how do you feel about this situation? And you take turns. And it's really hard not to interrupt. I know I struggle with this. She stares at me. I'm like, that is not true. And I want to like cut her off right there. But you're like, okay, like I might need to take a mental note or write something down and I'll come back and address that because, you want to fight. Love celebrates with the truth. And so whenever you feel like they're believing a lie, you want to fight against that and help them to see the truth. But anyways.
No, I think that's such a good point. And you may not need the object forever, but temporarily
we did use it.
We did. And it was actually very helpful. And we don't necessarily do that now, but I do think it's a big deal. And so I think the other thing too, just to consider as our kids are about to come in a minute, make sure you celebrate the win of working through the argument. You don't want to leave the argument both cold and upset at each other, but do something to be back together and loving each other well. And so that's hi guys. That's a big deal.
Thanks for listening. Hope you take a step forward in your conflicts today. God bless you. Bye.